Welcome to another episode of Times and Tides by Gen360. You also describe, in addition to extracting the endosperm and the water, tender water inside the coconut, they also use some sticks sometimes to now clean their teeth.
That's right.
And also to poke the coconut.
Right.
So
there's this behavior of dental flossing which is described by my colleague, by Arijit Pal et al. Is where they have observed the feathers of chicken being used.
No, even threads.
Even threads. So
from certain cloth, they have taken threads. And some thin wires also used.
Thin wires also.
See, coconut, when you eat, it gets stuck here in the holes. Even us also.
Yeah.
So they need to clean it. Actually, you can see that feather in that video we have given here. The monkey puts it there, keeps on doing like this. You see the thing, coconut, small piece comes from the hole.
Okay.
And that it throws. And actually, when we published this paper in a journal called Primates, Science covered it. Science picked up the story.
I see.
And Science ran the whole story with our photos and videos.
No wonder, because
because the title was...
No. Because flossing is an element of beauty among humans.
See, the science ran this article with the title, Monkeys may have better dental hygiene than you.
Okay, great.
They ran the whole story on our paper.
And then you also describe other behaviors of wrapping and all that.
That is correct.
Why do they do, and what is the wrapping that you talk about there?
Yeah, so leaf wrapping is a behavior in which leaves of a certain size are gathered. So they might pull onto a branch, and then the object of interest, which in most cases is food, but it can be a non-food item also. Those are wrapped with the leaf. And then there are these typical motor patterns, which we will see, in which the leaf is first wrapped, and then they poke a hole into the leaf, and they try to bite onto it. So the moment you see a certain kind of motor actions following, you know this is leaf wrapping. You are seeing everything. But then the kind of object that gets wrapped is highly variable. Like the surface of the objects can be highly variable. So the function is not immediately apparent. But when it is wrapped, when say leaf is used to remove the spines of caterpillars, then it seems functional, because the caterpillar...
What is that caterpillar spine removing? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so insects are eaten by monkeys.
Okay.
So at the caterpillar stage, many caterpillars have bristles and spines on their bodies, which is not immediately edible. And so
it can hurt also in the mouth.
The bristles have to be removed, and so the caterpillars also get wrapped with these leaves, and so in the process they also rub it. So we call it leaf wrapping. But then there's also a rubbing action, which is clearly visible that the bristles are now gone,
removed, and so they eat the caterpillars.
Yeah, then they eat the caterpillar. But what is the most dominant object that is leaf wrapped is typically the coconut in its dehusked stage.
Okay.
So when there are a lot of these fibers sticking around, which can be little poking.
Okay.
So those are the ones that we most often see being
Then can we expect that this leaf wrapping is also used to process or eat the fruits which are having spines and thorns and that? Can we expect
probability started with this. And what Sayantan is told, that's functional. But now when they are using it for a number of other things where it doesn't seem to be functional, it's probably they are just using it because originally it may have developed for that purpose only.
Basically, you suggest that they are perhaps have developed this to now take care of the thorns on the fruits, like some of the fruits have got thorns, and that might have been extended to other situations.
Yeah, so there are other examples in which it also seems functional. For instance, feeding on wild cashew. Cashew, when it is broken, also exudes some kind of gums which are acidic in nature, which can burn the lips if it touches your lip directly. So even in those cases, we see wild cashew being wrapped. And so there are individuals who, for instance, do not wrap, and you can clearly see the burning marks. Whereas the ones who do, you don't see.
See, number of these processing behavior, like what we talk about, that rubbing and all, it is a processing system. So processing of foods in nature it's not very common, but it's once it is there, it's very interesting.
Acha.
We have an example of a squirrel, Malabar Indian giant squirrel, Rathufa indica. That we published that paper in Ecology. Just to explain how that how the leaf is, how they take that jackfruit leaf. It's
so moving slightly, what we have seen in a squirrel that my colleague Mohan was studying is that he noticed that when Malabar giant squirrel was feeding on the leaf of a jackfruit species, and this is a wild variety of jackfruit, which is present in northern Kerala. So when they were the squirrels were feeding on the leaf, they were doing it in a very peculiar manner, not unlike they would eat any other leaf. When they were eating this jackfruit leaves, they were removing the midrib of the leaf before feeding on it. So it was very interesting as to why they are doing it. And so we reported that what seems to now be the case is the reason why they are removing the midrib was to get rid of the latex system.
Acha.
So the jackfruit exudes a lot of latex into its leaf the moment you pluck it.
Okay.
So, and the midrib acts as a channel.
Okay.
So if you remove the source of the latex, then latex do not enter the leaf midribs.
Okay, it's palatable now.
It becomes palatable.
Acha. Okay. Very
so things like that.
Yeah. Now let me come to one other experiment, Mewa, that stunned me actually. You call it as pet experiment, PET. Actually, it's my pet experiment also. So wherein you provided to the monkeys the Coca-Cola bottles with the buttermilk inside. Can you kindly explain what is that?
See, this was again first when we gave that mouse trap.
Yeah.
An object which was unfamiliar to both groups.
Yeah.
Urban monkeys and rural monkeys.
Yeah.
That box was unfamiliar. They don't come across these mouse traps.
Okay.
Then we wanted to see, suppose one object is familiar to one group but not very familiar to the other group.
Okay.
So we thought of Coke bottles. Now because urban monkeys, they see these water bottles.
Okay.
They sometimes lift from Chamundi Hill. Many times they lift water bottles also from the shops. If the shopkeeper is not there, they just jump and lift these small water bottles and all. And Coke bottles, they're familiar with these objects. So we studied both this one. No? See, it's like this Coke bottle.
Okay.
So this now you see here, there is a cap.
Correct.
But there is also a ring.
A sealing ring.
There is a ring here.
Correct.
Which is sealed.
Okay.
Which is sealed here.
Okay.
So what we did now, we wanted to see how they will open this and how they will extract the food from this.
Okay.
So what we did was we simply drilled a hole.
Okay.
Took the coke out.
Okay.
And then we put some sweet lassi in this.
Okay.
In this much.
Okay.
It was sealed.
Okay.
The hole was sealed.
Okay.
And these were presented to the monkeys, both urban monkeys and rural monkeys.
Okay.
And then we saw recorded behaviors. They all video recorded.
That's
everything.
Yeah.
How they try to extract food.
That
some simply just keep on rolling it. Try here and there. Nothing happens. And some monkeys, like they would bite. They have canines here. They would just bite and then drill holes. Sometimes, the 2 holes would come. And then the lassi starts coming out. Then they try to drink. And a lot of it gets wasted. So the most sophisticated way would be the way we do. The way which would be called the most successful trial. Successful way of opening it will be not to waste it.
Okay.
Yeah. This would be to remove the cap. But to remove the cap, first we have to remove this ring.
That is
which is seal.
The sealing.
Now that the video will be there, I think people would find it very interesting, which I have always seen in my talks. Sometimes people start clapping when they see what the monkey does. The monkey puts the tooth there, canine here, and where that seal is, it's connected 3-4 places, you can see it. It breaks it. It's between the ring and the cap. It breaks that connection thing there, and then it neatly takes it out like this.
Wow.
That's just the ring. It takes it out like this, you can see it. Fully, it takes like this, it does, throws it. And then it is still closed.
Yes.
Then it start sitting there catches like this and then fully opens like the way
by
we
hand.
Do. Fully opens and throws the cap and then drinks.
I see.
Now, once we studied this, this was the stunning thing. About 60% of the urban monkeys did this. And rural monkeys, not even one. Not even one could do this. We had 4 behaviors. Ignored, basically 3. Ignored, attempted, success. Some 20-30% monkeys in urban areas, rural areas, simply ignored the Coke bottle.
Okay.
Didn't look at it. Some just played around with this.
And left.
And some attempted. Okay. Not even one was successful in getting the resource, food. Whereas urban monkeys, ignoring? No, everybody. 100% manipulated.
So they know
this.
that the food inside is
and
worth
more than 60% were able to show this behavior.
60%.
This kind of opening the ring, then opening the seal very systematically, not just pulling it or biting it, opening with the hand and then drinking it.
So human.
And it's so human.
Yeah, it's so human.
So it's see this. So once again, it is like it is because of this exposure repeated.
Okay.
It is not that they would have probably learnt in one day.
What is important is generally the humans don't break that, they just turn it. Let me now come to another issue of the coconut thing. You also mentioned somewhere that there were individual differences in the way the monkeys process the coconut, and you also say in one of your papers that even in the way they can open that this pet cap or the Coca-Cola's cap, among them there are some monkeys which are very good.
Yes.
And some of them are very consistent.
Oh yes.
Okay. And you also say that there are population differences or group differences in that. Does it mean that there could be in fact genetic predisposition to now discover these things in some individuals which is not there in some other individuals?
Yeah, so genetic predisposition, I mean, this is still a subject of active research. So
Okay.
we do not have a complete answer at the moment. Genetic predisposition does exist, but not for coconut processing. It's not as specific as that. It is largely for certain kind of motor actions.
That's okay. You both agreed that there could be genetic predisposition for this because there are genetic differences. And do you also agree that some of these traits that they invent gives fitness advantage to that individual, survival advantage to that individual? Would you agree?
Yes, in the long run, yes.
In the long run, yes.
Yeah,
Very good.
but see what happens is we must understand one thing, that the gene phenotype relationship is one thing. The gene, there has to be a gene for a phenotype.
Okay.
What happens is what we use a term called behavior as an evolutionary pacemaker. Because behavioral flexibility behavior can be very quickly, changed. Within the range. Even Dobzhansky called it a reaction range.
That's okay.
Within the range. There is a plasticity, or we use the word flexibility.
Okay.
So it can happen very quickly, like changing habitats. We have published number of these on changing habitats. Rapidly new behaviors emerge. See, once they emerge, in the very long run, because they add to fitness, because they add to individual fitness, they probably undergo some kind of physiological anatomical changes where the behavior sets the tone for evolution. Now, for example you take of human language. The humans started making use of early hominids, started making use of some kind of a vocal communication, which is not so much in the animal world. Okay, I mean songs and the birds, etc. is one thing.
Yeah.
But probably to accommodate that linguistic or so-called communicative vocal behavior, pharyngeal tract underwent change.
My point is, if you both agree, and I'm sure I also would like to now subscribe to that there are genetic differences, and those genes that are now making an individual capable of inventing new tools and methods like this can have a survival advantage, means they would be now selected better than the others. Would you agree?
Right.
Yes, I mean that's
good.
Pretty obvious.
Which is a Darwinian selection, okay? Selection through genes. Now, my bold question to both of you is the following. If this continues, meaning what? Selection for the better Einsteins, I am calling them as Einsteins, inventors, new intellects. If there is this kind of selection that goes on for a long time to come, monkeys evolve in their mental abilities. Okay? Now, let us say 1,000 years down the line, if I observe the same group of monkeys that you are observing, don't you think their abilities to invent also would have now enhanced in future? Because of this selection, because there is a continuous selection, demand to acquire resources, there is genetic differences, genes are being selected, so there is an accumulation of intelligent genes in the population. So gradually, what is the population today would now be different from a population 1,000 years down the line.
What they are today is a product of those 1,000 years.
In other words, don't you then think that monkeys are chasing us in terms of their intellectual ability? That is my bold question.
I think it might fascinate a very common man.
Now, the reason I asked that question is, if you now think that yes, they are capable of, then genetic evolution is going on fine. If you think they are not, maybe there may be constraints on that. Maybe neurotransmittory constraints. There is some limit within which they can only evolve this invention. So I just wanted to have your response on that. Yeah.
True. See, every species has a limit.
Okay.
No, you can never teach language to chimpanzees.
Yeah.
You can teach them communication process. You can make them understand your language. You can't think one day that chimpanzees will start using language.
Okay.
There are limits for every species which are set genetically.
Okay.
See, what happens is, if you look at behavior, evolution of behavior, there are two things. One is our phylogeny, another is our ecology.
Okay.
See, phylogeny sets two things.
The limits.
One is the speed of evolution.
And
As you know, as a geneticist, you know it. More is the variability, faster is likely to be the evolution.
Right.
Lesser is the genetic variability. There is lesser raw material for selection to act upon.
Yeah.
Slower will be the evolution.
Correct.
So higher variability, more raw material for selection, faster will be evolution.
Yeah.
So our phylogeny or any population's phylogeny, one thing it determines at what speed the population can evolve.
Correct.
Second thing it determines to what extent it can evolve. The
Right.
gene set that limit.
Correct. Yeah.
So the speed and the extent are limited or constrained. They are phylogenetic inertia.
I agree. I mean,
They are inertial,
I never.
but in which direction they will go, that is determined by the ecological factors.
I agree. No,
So
but
both
when
our phylogeny and ecology, phylogeny would determine the speed and extent of evolution. Ecology would determine
The
the
trajectory.
speed of the direction of evolution.
Trajectory, yeah.
Tigers live in dense forest, tend to be solitary.
Yeah.
Lions live in open country, tend to form prides.
Mewa, my point is not that they would catch up with us. That's not my point. I only want to see that if Darwin is true and if evolution is going on forever and if there is this kind of genetic basis for these inventions, there would be certainly evolution going on among the monkeys also is my question. I think we'll come to the last but perhaps the most difficult discussion that we need to indulge in. All that we discussed so far is inventions in the area of foraging, acquisition of the food and processing of the food. Acquisition, as for example, in taking a coconut and rejecting the coconut, processing in the process of how they process it and all that.
Right.
Could there be inventions in other areas of their survival like communication, mating, etc.? I like to now quote a small example I recently read in chimpanzees. In chimpanzees, they have discovered a new way of communication of recently, which is not related to their food acquisition and processing. Obviously, as you know more than me, chimpanzees drub the trees to communicate with other chimpanzees. But in this situation, they have found that they start throwing stones to the trees. They drub the tree with their stones. The reason apparently is, instead of hand rubbing, if they throw the stone, especially to the hollow trees where there is hollow inside, and if you throw, it produces a kind of sound which can travel faster than the drubbing with the hand. So there is a long distance communication chimpanzees are trying to establish. Very interestingly, this behavior was also seen more often in males than in the females, and the young ones were trying to copy this stone throwing. Probably they interpreted that it could be also an establishment of the male dominance and communicating that to females at farther distances. So communication and mating strategies were now kind of invented by throwing stones is what this paper was talking about. Are there any such other examples in any other
Very
area?
interesting question.
Yeah.
You see, we are talking of foraging, we work on primates.
Yeah.
So that is the main thing which we wanted to look at. So this, for example, communication, it has been long known. For example, in birds, we look at the dialects of songs. See, the same species, the bird songs, there are so much dialectical differences from one habitat to another habitat. The songs are so different and they are learnt. But these things have been seen now that the young bird which has learnt in one habitat, the other habitat, another young birds are learning totally differently. Because there are dialectical differences. Okay, they won't even understand each other's signals. And then it is a learning process if they are taken away, for example, from the parent.
Achha.
And the young birds, they learn those dialects from when they are with the parents. And if they are isolated,
Achha.
they have a genetic capability to sing.
Okay,
They pick
okay,
up a song
okay.
which is very generic.
Achha,
It
achha.
will not be of their parental population.
Achha, achha. In other words, these are specific
Learned.
to
Even
learned
the song, the song type is learned in that habitat only from the parents. Raised in isolation or with some other place, they'll pick up a generic song,
Okay.
which will not be specific to that habitat. So these things are,
So in
we
other
call it
words-
another tradition kind of example.
Yeah.
So these things are known in communication in birds. We
In
are
other
talking more
words-
foraging because it's so complex in the
Fine,
level of
fine, I
primates.
understand. In other words, what you observed in foraging can also happen in other areas of communication.
Oh,
and
yes,
all
yes.
Yeah, in fact, there's one example because you're talking about primates where Japanese macaques have been seen to use stones and they throw it to attract the attention of potential males.
Ah,
So
I
it's
see.
so using stones, throwing stones for sexual solicitation.
I see.
So you
Okay.
can have the use of stones in multiple contexts outside the context of feeding and
Yeah,
foraging.
in other words, anything that is encouraging the use of outside their body features like stones or
That is
anything
correct.
is a kind of invention in my view, and that is now there for mating also.
Exactly.
Very interesting. So now that brings me to the issue of culture. Okay, when I say culture, I'll tell you what I mean. Okay, I am not referring to the culture of humans of varying interest and all that. No. If there are two populations of the same species, and if the two populations have some behaviors, right, which are not common to each other, but have their advantage to themselves, irrespective of the ecological conditions. You know, if it's ecological conditions different, then that means they're adapting to the ecology. That's not the point. Ecological conditions are same, ecology is not demanding, but one group has developed one kind of behavior which perhaps is helping them in some ways, but other is not invented, though there could be a possibility. Inheritance of that and accumulation of those kind of behaviors is what I call culture. At least in the simplest way that I have understood culture.
Okay.
So
Now-
could they be? I mean, it appears that they are all there in the primate.
I mean, it's a world is so freely used now, culture.
Okay.
Culture, we were reluctant to use these terms before.
Okay.
Now the term culture is very freely used for, especially for primates. You know, for our organisms, culture is very freely used.
Okay.
But restricted way to understand the definition of this one, differentiate that at basic level is a tradition. Tradition could be one single activity. You have this ritual, some behavior, okay, that is passed on. It's a non-genetically, it is a tradition.
Okay.
A culture is accumulation of several such traditions.
Okay. Cumulative.
Where
difference.
so many things, you know,
Yeah.
are put together, then it becomes culture. But they are all transmitted through learning.
Okay.
They are all transmitted socially.
Okay.
There is no, in the long run, there may become genetic difference. See, culture, once it develops, you know, E.O. Wilson in his book Sociobiology, the last chapter actually is called Man from Sociobiology to Sociology.
Okay.
Okay, the chapter is very nice. The whole book is about sociobiology, man from sociobiology to sociology. He has used a very nice term there about culture. He says, once after it evolves, culture acquires its own motor.
And so
Now-
it becomes non-culture.
So culture
Becomes
once
genetic,
acquires,
yeah.
it requires its own motor.
Yeah.
The determinants of that certain behaviors, they become now not biological, not but cultural themselves.
Okay.
So it has its own motor that culture itself would determine. Like humans are the best example. So much of our behavior is so culturally conditioned.
Now I stop at the point of culture being there in primates. I will not proceed further. And it does tell a lot of things, that they also have a repertoire of behaviors that are passed on from generation to generation, which are different among populations, and the population culture of this population is different from the culture of that population. Like for example, in our forest and urban monkeys,
You know,
etc.
Franz de Waal, very well-known primatologist, very good friend of mine. We were teaching together in Russian Academy of Sciences in Moscow. It was a summer program, so we were teaching that program there. In one of his talks on culture, because he studied apes, beautiful sentence he spoke in the end. The last sentence of his talk, one of his lessons, in the class is, you don't have to go searching for nature to find culture. There's a lot of culture in nature.
Okay.
I mean, some sentences, very beautiful
that
sentences.
sums up and
There's
you
a
seem
lot
to now
of culture
support
in
what
nature.
I suggested. Now, I guess we should now close the discussion. That was a wonderful discussion. Thank you both, Dr. Mewa Singh and Sayanthan. I learned a lot of things from this discussion. I hope and I do feel and believe that the viewers of this podcast also would perhaps gain by knowing these examples about the monkeys and get to know how intellectual monkeys are, which of course you object to, but I ascribe to. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Yes.